I'm rebuilding a team that got relegated and not stopping until we win a championship. The Idaho Vandals are known for playing in the Kibbe Dome, and they used to be an FBS team until the Sunbelt dropped both them and New Mexico State back in 2017, mainly because since 2000 the Vandals were averaging less than 3 wins a year. They were clearly struggling, so they relegated themselves back down to the FCS level. And even if that was the right decision for them, I've decided to make them the 8th team in the new Pac-12. I'm gonna see if it's possible to win a championship only recruiting out of Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, while only giving myself 10 seasons to do so. And if you've seen any of my rebuilds before, you know this isn't gonna start off well. We're gonna have a 62 overall team with a quarterback that's a 53. Derek Dalton is not gonna cut it for us. I don't care if he's a junior. I don't want to start this kid next season. But when I went to look in the state of Idaho for talent that we could recruit, there's only a few players. I'd say that Oregon was a little bit different. You're gonna see a few 4-stars, but from the quarterback side of things, there's just one 2-star that would actually consider us. And that left the state of Washington to find our future quarterback, where George Fogg is only a 2-star. We're gonna be looking at 2 stars. I think it's pretty clear that you can already see how challenging this rebuild's gonna be recruiting out of these states. To make matters even worse, Washington recruits extremely well regionally on this game. And so as I start to scroll through some of the prospects that we're specifically targeting, you're gonna see them in basically every single battle. There was only one gym I thought could be nice to land in Ario Marvin. He's a possession athlete, probably would play tight end for us. There's another gym that's a 4-star we don't have a chance on. And I've kind of been avoiding it, but it's probably time that we should just hop into our first game of the season and see how things go. We have to play number 19 Arizona on the road first. And let's just be real, none of us thought we were winning, but I didn't think it'd be as bad as 62-0. That alone makes me want to play against FCS Northwest. And here's the thing, we might not be able to get the Kibbe Dome specifically in this game, but this is a close enough stadium. There's a lot of fans in attendance excited about Idaho being at the FBS level again. Good little run on 3rd and 6. And if we could ever reach the end zone, there's actually a pretty cool pattern in it, but that's gonna be hard to do. We'd actually get in there one time by the 4th quarter, but we need to pick up this 4th and 2 if we're gonna do it a second time. And you can see that with 3 minutes left, we're losing to this FCS team, but that was kind of expected even if we did just come up from there. I have to have some faith that we can still beat them though. I need a big run out of our running back, except Colin McPherson does not have that much speed on him, and they are clamping up right there, so they're gonna knock it down. It has been very challenging to move the ball with the Vandals. This is a late throw, it's dropped, and it is so easy to get those red meters whenever you have a team this bad. I didn't even hold down that one for that long. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be though. We're clearly gonna struggle to get wins all season, though we could have stopped them on this 3rd and 7. I just missed a tackle. And there it is. Great start to the year. I feel like I always make these teams so terrible off the rip, and with only 10 years to save the Vandals, I'm gonna need to get luckier in recruiting than this. It's impossible though whenever our school grades are so bad and their interests don't line up with the couple that are decent. And so for these first few seasons, maybe I should have refrained from going after 3-star and higher prospects and pursued the 1 and 2 stars. I know on YouTube sometimes people can exaggerate stuff as well, but I was not when I was talking about Washington and what they're gonna do with these recruiting prospects. They've taken almost every player that we've gone after so far. And all I have to show for like midway through the season is 1 3-star right end and then George Fogg, a 2-star quarterback. Now I will admit there's still a chance we get the 2 gyms on our board. I can't believe we're even in the running for this 4-star. But outside of that, you can see the rest of the recruits that are on our board at the moment. It's 2 stars, even 2-star JUCOs are pretty common, and then a bunch of 1-stars. I'm not a fan of the future or the present of Idaho football at the moment. As you can see, we've only put up 7 points at the most in a game. And I can pretty much guarantee for these first few years, we're gonna get obliterated by our in-state rivals. It's gonna be so ugly, I didn't even want to hop into it, but we did score twice as many points as we have all year. And we even signed an Ario Marvin, but sure enough, look who's coming out of nowhere, Washington, to steal away the 4-star. They're clearly gonna be a main reason we don't get him, but another reason could also be the fact that we went 0-12. We didn't win a single matchup. And for the first season of playing in the new Pac-12, we were a complete disappointment at the bottom of the conference. With that in mind, I think it is worth it to fire these coordinators, see if we can get some recruiters in here. And I'm just so excited to sign these 1-star prospects. Now I will say, Caden Salter just had one of the most impressive Heisman stat lines I've ever seen. He had no interceptions, but that's because he hasn't transferred to Colorado yet on this game. As you can see, Meredith did decide on Washington, and then the Huskies also just started stealing 2-star prospects from us for fun. Being region locked in this rebuild is going to greatly limit us, which is why I said I needed to find recruiters. Tony Clemens is one of those, and I couldn't find one of those same builds on the defensive side of the ball, but we also need to focus on being a motivator too. It'll boost our player development, so I think these 2 hires are going to really help us out. And I didn't even want to check out these season stats. Derek Dalton had 4 touchdowns to 20 interceptions on a 33% completion percentage, while our starting running back Pat Nicholson only had 253 rushing yards. To make matters even worse, our top 2 receivers receivers are both seniors, so we're going to be losing them. And now we have 9 seasons to win it all like Clemson just did. When it comes to other players graduating outside our receivers, it doesn't really affect us since our team was so bad. And we have limited options available to us in the transfer portal, but none of them are from Oregon, Washington, or Idaho, so I can't go after any of them. It really stinks, but the rest of my points in this period are just going to be spent on 1-star prospects. And I thought for sure we were going to have the worst class in the country, but it actually finished all the way up here at 117. If you compare that to the rest of the Pac-12, though, that is at the bottom of our 8-team conference. And there was only one player with star development or higher. It wasn't the 3-star Jim. It was not quarterback George Fogg. It was actually this 3-star right end. But it's just hard to get excited about that when this team is so bad, and we have got to get some better receivers in here. The entire team's a disaster at the moment, but luckily, whenever you start off as such a low overall, even as a level 1 coach, you're going to progress pretty quickly off the rip. And that's how we've been able to get up to a level 10, which is going to allow us to start spending some coach points. Going down the recruiter skill tree, I don't know if I want to put more hours into players yet because we shouldn't be competing for 3-star prospects much. But at least now putting hours into players means more. We can even scout them faster, and the number 2 player in the country, a 5-star prospect, was from Idaho, but he won't even consider us. That actually hurts a lot. He could get amazing playing time for the Vandals. We need every single position. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but there were 4 different quarterback options from Washington. One of them was a Jim with 92 speed. And if we want to sign Brendan Clark, we just have to hope the Huskies don't go after him. I'd say so far so good. Air Force is the only other team that seems to be competing. We also have another 6 Jims on our board, including 4 receivers that I'm targeting. And if we're able to pull this off, this would greatly help out our class because last year we didn't stand a chance getting prospects like this. It took a season focusing on upgrading recruiting. I'm still not too worried about the product on the field, but I will say after starting this season with a loss, I would like to beat FCS Northwest before we get into the rest of the year. It should be a winnable matchup for us. Derek Dalton's now up to a 67 overall, and believe it or not, he's even been able to max out his accuracy stats even if they're not that good still. That should be all we need though to win this game, except as we enter the 4th, we're losing. Fortunately for us, that can change right here with a touchdown run. We do have a safety and a field goal, and I'm glad we could finally crack the end zone on the 2-point conversion. I don't think we're going to get enough, but it's okay. After our defense forced an interception, we have the ball down on the 5-yard line, and if we could finish off another drive, we'd go up by 8 points, which would be massive. Colin McPherson is currently averaging 1 yard per carry though, so we're going to have to throw to get in, and that is where I'm going to throw the just typical interception. Typical Bordeaux read. They're going to return it back for a touchdown most likely unless we can somehow catch this kid. And we might never have any success with Idaho. I'm not even surprised with myself though. I always end up making those crucial turnovers. And we still don't have those good receivers that I'm hoping to get next season. So instead of routing up this corner, he just ran the worst route ever. This game's not over yet, but it's basically over. They should have to just settle for a field goal. And it would be perfect if they missed this kick, which they did. That is actually huge because we have 2 minutes to respond with a touchdown. I'm gonna make it happen. And as we approach midfield, we're gonna mix in a run just to see if we get anything. It is very disappointing anytime we do something like that though. We're gonna have to throw. And Derek Dalton has 3 interceptions in this game. It's not like he's been having a great performance or anything. I just know that if we're gonna win a game this season, this would definitely be the game for us to win. And that could help us out greatly. I'm not a fan of us dropping that ball right there, but we know our receivers aren't the best in the world. And that's why I'm recruiting so many new ones this next season. Going to our running back in the flat. That should have been intercepted. I didn't even see the cornerback there. That might have been one of the blindest reads I have ever made, but now we're going to go down inside the 3. Here we go. Idaho football getting their first win back up at the FBS level. Even if it's not against an FBS team, we're going to have to probably throw it. I'm trying to scramble in, throw it away. Actually, you know what? We're going with the fullback dive. I remember recently, Comment told me this is a great play, and our little 5'6" running back just snuck his way right in. That's how we're going to put the Vandals back on the map, getting them some progress towards becoming a better team. But we're going to have a lot of games coming up that won't go as well for us. That is okay though. We have been able to sign Brendan Clark. Whenever it comes to some of these other 3-stars, Washington is in the hunt, but I think we can close out for most of them. At least I was really hoping that we would, and it seems like we did. In 1 week, we picked up 5 more 3-star commits. This is more than we had all of last season. And by the time we've gotten to our game against Boise State, we actually picked up another win against Stanford, just showing how far they've fallen off. I really don't know how we did that, but we are sitting at 2-3. 2-3. And one of these days, we're gonna take down the Broncos, establishing ourselves as the best team in the state. Will that be this year? Probably not. They still have Maddox Madsen and a decent running back, which means it looks like we're about to start this one down 14-0, and it would only get worse from there. This is just flat out embarrassment. I was hoping we could at least get onto the board once. Maybe if we catch this ball, it could happen, but it didn't, and we still haven't been able to win a game in the new Pac-12. Again though, this is something that could change a few years from now. We just need more time on the recruiting side of things, where we've been making amazing progress, not losing a single battle until Washington stole this tight end. Either way though, I think we're going to be alright. We have a bunch of 2-stars and even some 1-stars on our board. So as we continue to lose games throughout the rest of the year, I can keep on building up this roster. And I always let myself playing up to 3 regular season games a season. I just don't see us having any success by me hopping into one. The best thing I can do for the Vandals is keep making these signings, and then we can get lucky and sim with a result like this one over San Diego State. That's our first conference win in Pac-12 play. Going from winning 0 games last year to 3 games this season is a big step up. And like I said, what I thought would make the difference is bringing in some new coordinators. Having Tony Clemens and then investing some points into recruiter myself made a big difference. But until we pour coach points into tactician, our season stats are still going to be pretty disappointing. This is still a team that went 3-9. Even our best guy, Scooter Page, 772 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, is going to be graduating. And what I've decided is Washington is just greedy. They stole a second tight end from us. Apparently one wasn't enough, and they even want this 2-star free safety. The reason that is such a problem is if I look at defensive backs in the few states we can recruit in, there's almost none that we're going after. And that's because they literally don't exist. There's a pool of like no talent. I have a plan to maybe work around it, but it'll be a few seasons before it actually pays off. Nebraska has returned to relevance, and this time when we're saying goodbye to our seniors during graduation, I'm actually going to miss a lot of these players because they were great starters. Sure enough, Washington ended up signing the highest rated defensive back prospect between Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, and I was hoping the transfer portal would bless us, but none of these players are from those states, so I can't recruit them. Either way though, I am much happier with this class compared to the last one that we pulled in, mainly because of all these 3-star gyms up at the top. And Brendan Clark might only have impact development, but he still has 92 speed. He's still going to be the best option we have at that position. We have a star dev wide receiver, and we also have the 65th best class in the country. Comparing that to the Pac-12, we're second right behind Boise State. The reason they're ranked so high is they happen to sign that 5-star number 2 prospect from the state of Idaho, and that'll probably be the only time a player like that's available from our home state. Brendan Clark's going to be a 67 overall, but he could be a tight end as a higher one. I just can't afford to do something like that at the moment though. As you're going to see, there are not many defensive backs left on this team. We need to find like another 4. And sometimes with these athletes, they don't just play halfback like Terrence Christmas is supposed to. He's going to be able to play corner or safety for us, which is needed. There is also always the halfback method. Sometimes when you move these players over from halfback, they have a huge overall jump at corner. And Derek Tillman happened to be one of those players. He went from like a 40 to a 65. From a team perspective, we're a 74 overall. We have a couple guys finally above an 80 overall. And if I want to see even faster progression moving forward, it's time I fill up this motivator tab all the way down to tier 3 for every position. This will also help us level up even faster than we already are, which is pretty quick for normal speed. And we can still shoot for signing a class of 35 players since our roster size is only at 53. I don't know if we're going to be able to find that many players to go after, since a lot of the best ones still won't consider playing for the Vandals. But after adding players from all 3 states, I have 1 4-star to scout and 27 3-stars. It turns out that 1 4-star was a gym, so we're targeting him, but it's going to make it so I can't go after every gym I want right now. We're going to hope that nobody else goes after these 2 gyms while we wait. And then George Nava might not be a gym, but he is the only 3-star defensive back in the states we're recruiting in, so we've got to beat out Washington. I'm not just excited about recruiting this year though, I'm also excited about Brendan Clark. He comes in at 6'4". His accuracy will never get too great, but he elevates Idaho to a high enough level where we should beat an FCS school. In his first game, he goes for 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, and we are going to win 31-13. Looking at the rest of our schedule, I know I want to play against New Mexico State next week, and the reason for that is this is the other team that got kicked out of the Sun Belt the same year Idaho did. We're now like 10 years in the future seeing which one of these 2 teams can really take that next step, be the better program. And I would like to think that it's going to be us, but we have literally scored 3 points in this game. It is just so frustrating to see drop after drop whenever we can't be having them. And so much for these new receivers making the difference for us. They did not help at all. We might need to give those players a few seasons to develop. And on top of that, I will unlock the tactician tree so we can go in there, get down to tier 4 for both our receivers and our tight ends, and this will allow us to boost their catch plus catch in traffic. With what we just experienced, I don't want to have to deal with it again. And it might be dumb come to face Washington with our current roster, but this is the only way to convince recruits to choose our school. Were we successful in doing that? Not really, but at one point it was tied 7-all. And I've just accepted this is going to be another pretty rough year. Maybe I'm the problem though, and we'll just start winning in sim. And when it comes to the recruiting side of things, I have some good news. While I signed this cornerback, nobody snatched up these 2 other gyms that I wanted, and we've gotten all the other 3-star gyms. We're even still in a lead for this 4-star right tackle. And he's one of the first recruits I've been able to hard sell on, though I'm not sure it's making much of a difference. We were even able to pick up our 2nd win of the season against Hawaii by 1 point, just everything after that went downhill. But I don't care because we were able to sign our first 4-star prospect. In fact, as of now, I've only been going after 3 stars and higher. We have 12 guys signed, and we're on pace to get another 5 before the end of the year. And just like last season, I could still hop into one more game, but I think we're just going to lose all 3. That's exactly what happened, with Fresno State destroying us 65-7, but we kept it close against San Diego State. And I've been impressed by our conference to always have a team that's ranked inside the top 25 by the end of the year. This year, somehow unranked Oregon State even snuck into the playoffs with that 5th highest ranked conference champion spot. And that was probably the worst 12-team bracket I've ever seen. Brendan Clark was a little bit of a disappointment. He had a lot of turnovers, but he's also going to be a runner the farther his career goes on for. And you have to keep in mind, most of these receivers are just freshmen besides Miles Springer. It's a good problem to have a young team though, because we're not going to lose many players to graduation anytime soon. But I am disappointed that for the 3rd year in a row, the transfer portal is pretty much useless. We have absolutely nobody to target because I was already able to sign all these other prospects. And I can't be too upset about it because we did sign the 52nd best class with 16 3-stars, the most 3-stars we've had yet. We had the first 4-star that we've ever gotten, and still the 2nd best class in the conference. Now, taking a look at Deshaun's dev trait, it's only impact, but we're going to get star on this kid who's also a quarterback. And I figured I'd probably leave him at that position until I discovered that Pat LeBourne, another quarterback we went after, also is star dev. The only difference between Pat and Luigi though is if I was to go ahead and move him over to quarterback, he would start as a 73 overall, so he might be able to actually start for us this next year. And I was planning on putting him at another position, but now we're just gonna have to do that with some of these other athletes. Going down the motivator tab was probably one of the best things I could have ever done. We have Denario Marvin, one of the first gyms I ever signed, up to an 88 overall, our team up to an 81. And it helps us continue to level up really quick, so what I can do is go into tactician and make sure our defense performs even better. Now after doing this, I want to keep 40 coach points on the side in case we unlock this architect tree, in case we still want to go into recruiter, get tier 3 to put more hours into players. But I like the spreads we're starting to see, and our coordinators are eventually just going to max out in everything. I've been leaving it on normal coach XP speed setting for a while, but with the motivator, you level up very fast. And I think that's something that we really needed to compete with these recruiting restrictions, because still out in Idaho, I can only go after this 1 3-star that's interested. If it wasn't for the state of Washington, we would have some really bad classes every year, but interestingly enough, the 2 gyms I found this season come from Oregon, and they're both linebackers, but outside of that, I'm not too excited about any prospects. This receiver, the only 3-star we can go after this year, has 84 speed. It's a rough batch of players, and our season starts in week 0 this year. You can see we have tough opponents on here, like number 19 Kansas State, number 22 Fresno State, and even the Huskies to open things up could be a bit of a problem. I could also be starting the former 2-star recruit George Fogg at quarterback, which I was never planning on doing, but I took a second look at his stats, and this is better accuracy than we're going to get out of anyone else. Even with his star dev, Fateli Lutui's accuracies are actually capped out a little bit lower, and it just makes me wonder if we're going to be swapping in a new quarterback every season. I think if we were able to play well versus teams like Washington, I wouldn't really mind it. But we've only been able to put up 7 points throughout this entire game. There's been a ton of drops, and then we're finally catching it. It is way too late for that to matter now. I don't care that we just picked up a 4th and 7. We've struggled throughout this entire game. We can't get lucky. And I was really hoping if I hop into the first one, we'll have a great moment. We'll beat Washington, start the season right. But that was a bit too optimistic. I'm just going to wait until we get into Pac-12 conference play. We've been able to beat the Rainbow Warriors before. This season we weren't too lucky. Our first win had to come against an FCS opponent. And I'm actually going to start spending in the recruiter skill tree so we don't lose out on a 4-star prospect. I could tell Washington was going hard for Colby Eflin, but we have been able to put 80 points into him a week. We're also going to schedule him for a visit on a bye, so we can't lose this game. But we can definitely lose this game against the Wildcats. It's all good though, because there was no reason for us to take down a top 10 team. And here's what I'm excited about. I want to play against Utah State. I haven't gotten to experience any of these games I hop into where we have a favorable matchup yet, but I do get to against the Aggies, and guess whose offense still hasn't really existed? That's the first time we've had a successful play for a big gain through the air. And the longer this one goes on for, the more difficult it is for us to come back. I mean, that's not going to be caught most likely. So we had to punt it to Utah State, who's currently up by 8, and then we left them open. Me personally, I am not going to punt it here, but on 4th and inches, that's what they've decided to do. And our attempt to get a good conference win could still happen. Now, if it doesn't, George Fogg might just have to go back to the bench, but I'm hoping that he has the cannon to put this one on the money. And he did. We genuinely have the speed to beat some of these cornerbacks deep, but it's not going to matter because they're not able to catch it well. By the time it's 4th and 3, we are in a really tough position, but our tight end happens to find a lot of open space. And we need to make sure there is still time left on the clock once we score a touchdown if we don't get the 2-point conversion. George Fogg's on a bit of a redemption arc right there. That was a perfectly placed pass. Our running back's going to get us enough. And this could be an incredible comeback for us. They ran it on 3rd and 16. We might have been down 20-0 in the 3rd quarter, but we did not give up. We are still going to be on a 3rd and 9. And I can't even get excited for the potential comeback because it looks like we're going to be punting it straight back to them, though we're running for the first down and we got to slide. I'm sliding. It's fumbled. No idea how we were able to come up with that ball, but we were the ones that bounced straight on top of it. Now we're going to look to throw it over this zone, make a possession catch, and it's going to be brutal if we slow this one down in instant replay. I mean, we just got leveled there. Those are the sacrifices you have to make for the team, though, whenever we're trying to pull off this win. Great play right there. And that's why you always need to make sure you come to the ball. That applies to basketball, too. We're throwing a dude off of him. Now we can let Bryce Cheeseman get one little carry before we settle for a field goal. And this is exactly why I like to hop into games like this one. We might not have come back down 20-0 if I didn't. We're not going to talk about the fact it was that bad in the first place. Clemson's mascot was celebrating for us. And you know what? I'll take it. George Fogg had the best game of his career. I'm starting to realize, though, that 4-star Colby Efleen's probably committing to Washington. And if we wanted to win that battle, we probably should have put him on a visit against Colorado State. We were even able to win that game in sim 41-20. And with that result, the first 6 players that we targeted in this class have all committed, including Colby. I'm a little bit late to putting some points into these 3 stars, though, so I'm expecting us to lose these battles. And I'm really hoping we keep our winning streak alive against Oregon State. That was not the case, though. They beat us, so I'm glad we responded back against Washington State, going to 4-4. And at the moment, we're in the running for a spot in the Pac-12 championship, but we can't lose another game. That means we have no choice but to hop into this one against our rivals. And we need to do that anyway, because if we want to unlock the architect tree, we have to win 4 of those. The real issue, though, is our team is just simply not as good as theirs. So the fact that we have a chance to go up 14-0 is incredible, as we're able to run it in with George Fogg. He is sick and tired of watching the Vandals lose to the Broncos. And he is like the last guy I thought our starting quarterback was going to end up being, even after we recruited him, but he's helping us a ton. As we approach the end of this game, the lead that we built from the start is one that we're going to hang on to. Boise State's not going to come back down 2 possessions with no time left. And we're not just going to beat the Broncos. We're going to be able to double the score versus them with 4 touchdowns from George. That was the last game of the regular season I can hop into this year, so we're going to have to sim hoping that we keep this up. But I don't see why we couldn't. We're currently sitting at 4-1 in conference play, and if we beat Fresno State, we might be a lock for the conference championship. I like what I'm seeing so far. We had 3 sacks against them, but it turns out they beat us 34-17. It doesn't ruin our spot yet. We still have the tiebreaker against Boise State. But I'm not gonna lie, it's been a tough finish to the year so far. I've probably lost half of the recruiting battles with the players that are left on our board, and I just want to see this team become bowl eligible. We were able to do more than just that, though. I simmed the final 2 games. We're in the Pac-12 championship, and that's off of a 6-6 finish because UNLV took us down. How did they not make it? You know what? I forgot they completely declined their invite. They stayed in the Mountain West. And so that was not a conference loss, and our tiebreaker over Boise State held. Who would have thought that by season 4 we would even be in this position? And I really want to take home that trophy. It doesn't mean as much as it used to in the past, but it would still be a great achievement for just taking over Idaho, and you're going to see that Brendan Clark is the one out there on the field. The reason for that is unfortunately George Fogg suffered a foot fracture against UNLV. He's out for 4 weeks. And what that's done to our offense is really mess it up, but at least we're still in this game. If we can get a field goal on this drive, we would tie things up, but we're going for more. I really haven't involved Bryce Cheeseman as much as I probably should. He's young, and for whatever reason, his 92 speed doesn't feel that effective, though if we playmaker him right here, we could have a touchdown. That is exactly what we needed out of Brendan Clark right here. I thought we were about to get an interception. Instead, they get like 20. And with them staying in this hurry-up offense, I feel like we need to call a timeout at some point unless we can force them into making a mistake. Once we get them off the field, I'm gonna feel a lot better, even though there's still quite a bit of time left. And for whatever reason, now the game's starting to open up. Nobody was scoring touchdowns until now. They're breaking the tackle. And we're flying down the field trying to respond back ourselves. I mean, we're already down to the 5. This is where Cheeseman, I think, could really make a difference, but I'm gonna flip the run. I saw that we had a better chance at pulling it off to that side. Our blocks just weren't there, and now we're going to step up, wait, and throw it to the back of the end zone. I don't think that ball could have been placed any better than it just was. Brendan Clark is really trying to get himself the starting job back next season, even when we have our quarterback back from injury. And depending on how he progresses, it might still be able to go to him. Thank goodness that was a miss. It reminded me to back everybody up for this 4th and 10, which we have done. They're going to go to the flat. They can't fight for it. And we're basically 1 first down away from sealing this championship. I'm not sure we're going to get that, though. It's going to be hard to pick up the 3rd and 10. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine with trusting our defense. They've had themselves a pretty good game, though this did not pin them back the way I was hoping that it would. Here we go. Our season number 4 conference championship right here comes down to this drive. And I think we should stick with a lot of zone coverage. That's what I normally use to force them into making some mistakes, but they've gotten a lane down the field, and they're at the 15. I almost want to be as aggressive as I can be in case they happen to pull this off. I don't know how we can send 6 and not get in any pressure. But we just went from being in complete control to now finding ourselves in a tough spot. How many reads am I missing? Probably a lot of them. I see our running backs open for a second in the flat. But of course now Fresno State has decided they're going to lock up. This needs to be a hard pass that's caught. Now I'm going to try them with something deep. If we're able to split the safeties, we're going to be able to. It'll all just depend if that pass is on target or not. And it was. I tried to stay out of the end zone. I didn't want to give them any time. And there was good reason for that. They're already past the 40-yard line. I know that I have to cover both of these receivers over here. But thankfully, it all worked out. I have a quarterback contain on this play in case he tries to scramble, and we're sending right here, which he still got the throw out. The computer on Heisman can be a different breed. That is for sure. I almost messed up my user right there. I didn't mean to switch stick. And the computer might be running more 4 verticals than me, except they're going to get it to work, and time's going to run out. I think I backed him up on every play besides that one. And I can't believe I just let that slip my mind. We have beaten them off of the line, though. Hang on. Could we win this with one deep throw? College running. No! He was so close to pulling that one off. And instead, Fresno State beats us in the Pac-12 championship. We could have won it in season 4. Even worse, Fresno State's quarterback's a freshman. And that game wasn't worth almost losing my voice again over. Our bowl game matchup is going to be against Jacksonville State. But that loss just hurts so bad. I'm still going to start George Fogg next year. His stats were better. Brendan Clark couldn't get it done. And Bryce Cheeseman, just a freshman, he's only getting better. If anyone stood out, though, especially in that matchup, it was Denzel College. He had almost 1,300 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns, just a sophomore. And I have seen enough. We're going down the tactician route. I'm going to make sure our quarterback gets all the accuracy boosts that he deserves, and then I'm also going to go over to the offensive line category and max this out too. If we're going to level up this fast, I'm going to spend it. We're going to get Idaho right. And maybe this isn't the year that we win our first Pac-12 championship, but the year that we win our first bowl game. That was not the case, though. I know our offense didn't play the best, but our defense gave up 51. Brendan Clark has proven he's not starting for us ever, because for us to have success on offense, it took putting in the 3rd stringer, and we are now 6 seasons away from needing to win a championship. What blows my mind, though, is nobody left this team this year. Nobody graduated. And I am finally able to go after one player in the transfer portal, but I'm not sure Duke Roberts is worth it. You know what? I take it back. Anytime we have a chance to go after a defensive back, we have to take it. And since he actually cares about stuff like playing time, this is the best grades we've seen on a recruit this entire time. I know it also helps that our school grades are starting to get a bit better, but I still think we're going to be avoiding hard sells for the most part. And if you're curious about where this class was ranked, it's just inside the top 70. Looking at the Pac-12, that's actually the 4th best. What I tell y'all off the rip, though, this one just wasn't as special, though we did find our first elite dev linebacker. That's our first elite dev player, too. And we're taking some big steps forward. We have 4 players going into next season that are above a 90 overall. Only one of them's a senior. Plus, we have a quarterback room where we have multiple options to choose between. I think even with Fateh Latui having his accuracy capped out, we have to go with him because he has 92 speed. Though it really doesn't feel right to have George Fogg sitting behind him, so we might just let our guy with experience start and see how the year goes. But my hope is one of these 3 quarterbacks ends up being a gem. We've already gotten that with Whiteheart, and there's still 2 more to scout. Second one was a bust. This one was nothing. As I was scouting players and offering scholarships out, though, we were able to get an insta-commit out of this gym since we were first place on his board. And with 5 of the top 7 prospects on my board being gyms, with a couple of them being defensive backs, I'm pretty happy with the class we could put together. We're going to have to win some recruiting battles, but that hasn't necessarily been been the most difficult thing to do ever since we've really focused on it. And I want to say our schedule's not looking too tough, but we could lose a lot of games like this one. It's a nice surprise that that was not the case though. We actually beat them 28-11. And then I had to take some points off of Randy because I noticed they were going all in on this athlete that I really wanted. James Hoke isn't just any athlete either. He is 95 speed. And with that in mind, this is why I saved some coach points so we can make sure to put more hours into him. I'm also just going to go ahead and fully max out our tactician tree. And with only 400 hours to spend, I've had to move around some points in ways that I don't want to, but we're going to be able to schedule James for a visit as well, which should boost up the chance of him committing. I really don't even care what happens against the Miners. I just didn't want us to lose on James Hoke. But even after all of that, we did, and they're still coming after Bryce Whitehart too. I was actually getting really stressed out with the recruiting even the week after that until I looked at George Fogg's stat line against FCS Northwest. 607 passing yards, 9 touchdowns? What on earth have I just cooked up here at Idaho? Have we found the greatest quarterback I have ever had in a file before? That is genuinely just a mental stat line. I've literally taken full hours off of players as well so we can schedule visits trying to get people to commit. I think we're going to lose the 4-star to Oregon. And I might as well sim against Arizona if I'm going to hop into next week's game against Utah State. We were doing so well in sim that we should also beat the Wildcats, which we did. But putting 80 hours on players, scheduling them for visits does absolutely nothing. Washington has just come in and taken everybody from us. I have never seen anything like this before. We're just going to hop into this game. And I'm not going to sit here and act like this has been the best offensive performance in the world, but we're beating their press easily. The only thing that matters at the end of games is how you close them out. I sent in a blitz hoping that they'd make a mistake like that one right there. And assuming that we're able to continue to move the chains, there's no way that they're going to beat us now. I never thought that we'd be playing this well, especially this early on. But George Fogg has placed the ball in some pretty remarkable spots, and we're about to get a touchdown here. I saw the fight coming. I knew we were going to get in. And we're almost at the midway point in the season where we're still undefeated. I know that so far recruiting has been an absolute disaster. We're only going to sign 3 of those 3-star gyms, only up to 11 3-stars in general. But we've been making this roster work, and I'm happy with the spot that we're in. After continuing to sim against Colorado State and Oregon State, we're sitting at 7-0. We still have not lost a game. And this season is clearly going so much better than we could have ever predicted, but there's no guarantees we're going to make the conference championship. It'd be nice if we did, but in order to do so, we have to beat teams like Washington State, and we can't be sleeping on them because going into this matchup, they're also undefeated. It is pretty mind-blowing how things are going. This could be the new future of the Pac-12. But so far in this game, we have had a bit of an issue whenever it comes to catching balls. And it's looking like by the end of this first quarter, nobody's going to have scored a touchdown. It is definitely far from ideal, but we should be able to hit this field goal. And with 4.5 minutes left in this game, we find ourselves in a pretty good spot. We're up by 10. They're trying to run it in, and it's not going to work for them, which is why they're going to have to resort to throwing the ball on 3rd and goal, and they're trying to roll out, which isn't going to go well either. Now, you would think that after that, they just kick their field goal, but instead, they have thrown it and dropped it. And that might not necessarily guarantee us the win, but one first down would pretty much do it. This is exactly what we needed. We've now improved to 8-0. There's probably a shot that we make the playoffs. And it's all because I started the former 2-star. George Fogg is literally the best thing that has happened for Idaho football, especially since Washington is still just being a complete pain. But I guess I should not be worrying about recruiting. What I should be worrying about is taking down Boise State. Not only are they the only team left in the Pac-12 that's still undefeated in conference play, but they're the only team that's a higher overall than we are. And this is how we would lock in our spot to the conference championship game, especially as we're about to tie it up. We had a bit of a slow start, but now it's 10-10. And our offense certainly has its moments where it's incredible and other moments where it's not too good. Here in the 3rd quarter, we're on a 4th and inches that we need to pick up to keep this drive alive. We're able to. But by the time it's 3rd and 9, we're going to need another huge play, and that's what we have Mills for as he takes it from underneath. I think we're going to go into the 4th quarter with a lead over the Broncos. And it'll be interesting to see how this one finishes out. We actually have a 7-point lead with 2 minutes left. I've been able to get them to a 4th and 1. I really don't think that they're going to run the ball right here, but if they do, they're probably going to have that hole. And even then, we were all over it, getting the stop with another handoff, getting us 7 yards. They only have 2 timeouts left. You know that one more first down will do it. But the real question is, can Cheeseman get 4 yards on this carry? And I don't think he's fast enough to. In hindsight, that's going to look like an atrocious run, but I thought for whatever reason we could outrun them there. there. The bounce is perfect off of the punt though. And here we go. They have a couple more plays to try and move the chains. If they can't, the game's gonna end. So I'm very interested where they're gonna go on 4th and 2, and they're gonna go straight to us. Marvin gets the game-ending interception. The Vandals are about to be 9-0. I mean, nobody could have predicted that. And the craziest part is we should only get better from here. By this point, if we're gonna be this good, we've got to be ranked inside the top 25. We're right below Houston. And in case you're wondering, nobody in the Heisman watch it all for us, but Hawaii does have their quarterback. We then had a bye week, which would help us lock up the final few 3-stars on our board. But I can't say I'm excited about only signing 10 players from the states that we can recruit in, especially since a couple of them were busts. It is what it is though. Simming just 1 week was all we needed to jump up to number 15 in the country. And I do have to sim these final 3 games since I've already hopped into 3 this season. But the current expectation is we're just going to come out on top. With that win, I still can't 100% confirm we've locked in our spot to the Pac-12 championship. And the only reason for that is San Diego State could beat us this week, which unfortunately did happen, but luckily for us, UNLV's not a conference game, so we are in the conference championship. It keeps on confusing me that this matchup means almost nothing to end the year. And there's the pop-up. We're going to be playing against the Beavers. Moving up to number 12 in the country also means that we handled business here. And I can't believe after taking us down, San Diego State lost. I was hoping to have a chance at getting revenge against them. It's time for a moment against Oregon State though. This year, we've got to win the championship. And I still have not recovered from that heartbreaking finish last season. We might be dealing with another one though, because our offense just hasn't moved the ball that well against the Beavers so far. We've scored 10. It's so weird. George Fogg is incredibly inconsistent for us though. Right here, he is going to have Slade to run underneath it, and if he's quick enough, he would be gone. Brian Slade is one of those super good receivers that we were able to bring in a couple years ago. But Gilliam is struggling with his carries, so we have Cheeseman in for this play, and they're going to get in some rusher. It feels like we're about to blow our chance to score a touchdown unless our halfback angle route works out. Cheeseman gets in, and we're right back in it, being behind by 7. Here we go, 3rd and 8. I'm usering while sending 6. The blitz never got in though. They must have blocked somebody. And that is extremely frustrating because I had dialed in all that pressure for no reason. Maybe things will be different on 2nd and 9, though they hit their slant almost immediately. And we'll see what happens on 3rd down. I was trying to cover the seam, but they get a tutty. I really wanted them out of field goal range right there. If we have enough time, we should be able to hit Slade. But I am not happy about the current position that we are in. This has just been a letdown so far, though. I needed this one to go differently than last year. That isn't going to be a catch. But if it was, that would have probably been the catch of the year. Very hard to hold on to the ball in that situation. We have beat them deep over on that left side, though, and it's Slade. Brian Slade might just be our best receiver, even though I thought it was someone else. And it's ideal to have multiple good guys. They're going to keep an eye on college here, like we're going to give him the jet touch pass, but we handed it off. The real question, though, is can we get them off of the field? I've gone back to my defense where I just go like cover 4 and expect them to make a bad read. They're going to try and scramble for the first, but they came up short right there, and now we are in position to tie things back up on this drive. I really feel like I have to mix in some runs at some point. I didn't think they'd expect a draw, but they were all over it, so it's 4th and 3. We're going to have to take a hitch route, and our tight end is going to get us enough. There's still 6 minutes left on the clock as well, so we don't necessarily need to score a touchdown, but if we get to a 4th and inches situation, I would definitely go for it. We're getting a huge run out of Cheeseman. Our running backs are having themselves a game right now, but whenever Oregon State decides they want to stop the run, they've been pretty good at doing it. I think we're just going to have to scramble in right here or make this throw, which is off target. George Fogg is really not much of a runner, which is why I wasn't going to take off with him, but we might have no choice but to try it here. And we're actually about to get held on the goal line. We have the halfback angle route, which is enough. The real question will be, what are they going to do offensively to try and respond back? Right now, they're on a 3rd and 8. And I don't know why I cut back for half a second. I should have continued to run with him. But I figured eventually we'd get in some pressure. Maybe some of our other zones would start to actually cover. And instead, it's just set up the Beavers really nicely where they just ran the same play twice. It didn't work the first time. I don't know why they thought it'd work the second time. They get in. But that's my fault. I pass commit. I thought for sure that they were about to throw it. They were content with just settling for a field goal. We're playing against a very passive team. And I think it's about to work for them, though they're going with man-to-man coverage here. And on deep passes like this, I can normally make this play. This game is not over yet. Do not give up on the Idaho Vandals. We still have this one in the bag if we just get it out a little bit quicker, since they are sending in a lot of pressure. And I normally would go for the 2-point conversion, but just with the way the Beavers have played, I think I'm gonna kick an extra point. I'm very confident that we can win this one in extra time. Of course, we have to get there first. And I might just need to throw up a 50-50 ball to Brian Slade, come back to it, see if we're able to make a play on it. Because everything else was not working for us. They gave us that one-on-one look, and we might have had it right there as well. I just got extremely nervous. The computer loves to have somebody lurking over the middle for whenever you have those man-to-man routes out there. And like I said, normally I would go for 2, but we're going to play for overtime and see if that makes a difference. I've invested a lot of time into this conference championship. This is how we get our first spot in the college football playoffs ever. All we have to do is make sure they don't get in. And of course, that was never going to work. Now, with the new rules, you always want to get the ball second, but that is not what happened to us. Instead, we have the ball first. I like our defense to get the stop and then us go for the tutty, but instead, we're just going to have to play well offensively. Our left tackle actually did a fantastic job there. There's no way this would have worked without him, and it pays to have some good offensive linemen. George Fogg isn't even much of a scrambler either, making plays like that. They've tested Christmas on the first play of their drive, and that's a Christmas present for us. We're winning the Pac-12 championship. We've redeemed ourselves from last year, and that's exactly why I wanted to go for overtime instead of messing up the 2-point conversion. I figured George Fogg could get this done, and this should be one of many Pac-12 trophies that we take home to Idaho. It'll be interesting to see if we even have a first-round matchup. This is a rare running back winning the Heisman Trophy. Nelson Volk did deserve it, though. Are we going to have a first-round matchup? We're not. It looks like we're the 3 seed. We're getting the winner of Oregon and Ole Miss. And no matter which team it is, either one's going to be tough, but the Ducks are going to be harder. I think George Fogg is going to have a hard time putting up stats like he did the rest of the year against them, though these numbers are incredible. On the rushing side of things, Bryce Cheeseman had almost 800 yards. And then Denzel College took a step back, but mainly because Cortez Mill had a pretty good season, and so did Brian Slade. We were able to spread the ball around more, which is good for us. Oregon averages 39 points per game, though. I know we're going to struggle. We worked so hard to get to this point just to have a really tough matchup. But here's the thing, if we get them off the field early, you never know what could happen, and we've knocked it out. My biggest concern is what are we going to do offensively versus the Ducks? And with our players running into each other, the first half went exactly how you'd expect it to. If it wasn't for our defense, this wouldn't even be a competitive game, but right now we're only down by 10. We're going to use quick to get a quick interception, quick low turnover, and maybe this is where we actually start to put up some points. We just got to have some success. My thought is it has not come on the ground for us, so it might need to come through the air. We've gotten extremely lucky that they just missed making a play on the ball, and this is exactly what we needed if we were ever going to keep this one tight. For me, I think it's fullback dive from here. This is the cheat code that you all talked about, at least I thought it was, and I'm going to give it one more shot on 3rd and goal, which gets us in. You know what's crazy though? They went down the field in like half a second, and because the controller was just sitting in my lap as I was talking, I wasn't ready to block that kick even though we got the exact look that we needed to there. It's okay, we're starting with the ball in the second half, and I'm determined to take the lead here. All we have to do is score a touchdown. We're gonna have to pick up this 3rd and 7 though to make that happen, and their zone was covering the route that I wanted to throw towards. Don't fumble. We need some good ball security there, which we got, and the blocks are lining up. Even better, we are still in this one by the 4th quarter. On a 3rd and 13, I am trying to even use the defensive line to get in pressure, which is going to be the reason that we keep this within a possession. And things on our next offensive drive were going well until they weren't. A couple penalties put us on a 1st and 25. We have a long way to go to pick this up. And I don't love that being down by 6, but it is what it is. We're going to have to use a playmaker to get past those zones. This might be where we just throw it up to Brian Slade like we did in the conference championship last week. He was able to make a play the last time that we did this, but this time they get the interception and they're past midfield. This might be where our season ends. They have faked me out with the play action. I can't get over to him, but we still knocked it out. And now I really wish we were paying attention at the end of the first half to block that field goal. I am so dedicated to this Idaho team right now. I want to see us come out on top. And it would be sweet if we had the speed to beat them deep with one of our receivers, but that's kind of the difference in playing teams like Oregon versus some of the teams in our conference. Normally, this should not work. Apparently, Brian Slade has what it takes, though, and we have it back within a few. I didn't realize he was built like that. But this is why you don't give up. We now have them on a 3rd and 9, and I thought a hit stick was going to knock that ball out. Did he just stop? Are they doing that to save time and run out more clock? That really didn't make much sense to me. I mean, they're throwing it on 2nd down. That's going to be my area. And going back down by 9 points, we are going to need a miracle. So much for our offensive line blocking well. They didn't do a great job there. I just got this one out late. And this is it. It's 4th and 10. Man-to-man coverage. The throw is going to be off target, and that is the last thing I wanted to see. By the time that we held them to a field goal and got the ball back, unless we score a touchdown on this play, even with that, it was going to be over. And I put a lot of effort into that game trying to get Idaho the win, but we simply just didn't have that guy to come out on top. We saw a good season out of George Fogg, though. I'm just afraid he has nowhere else to grow. And we lost one of our 2 coordinators, which is so annoying because we had one of the best recruiters we could have had. The best we're going to do is somebody that's mainly a tactician. But without having 2 coaches built like this, now I know that we need to probably pour some more points into recruiter. We already weren't winning battles this year though, so who knows? And I hate to say it, but we're probably taking a step back next year after losing all of this starting talent. The only way we aren't is if player progression goes really well. And getting lucky in the transfer portal could help as well. Edward Parker might be a quarterback for us to actually get. It looks like he's going to be the only transfer from the 3 states we can recruit in that's going to be interested in coming here. There's also a 2-star tackle. And I'm just going to go ahead and purchase up to tier 3 for every position so we can put at least 65 hours into each one. I feel like with our updated school grades, we should have the option to go after a lot more players than we normally do. Next season, that is. And for the transfer portal period, we're going to sign both of the players we targeted. Is it the best class ever? Absolutely not. But Edward Parker at quarterback has star development. And I feel like I recognize that name. We probably lost out on a battle for him a couple of seasons ago. We were actually able to sign a few star dev prospects, but our class was ranked below the top 100. And since we have so many quarterbacks to choose between now, I'm going to take Brendan Clark and move him over to tight end since that was a position he could play well for us, which could actually work out really well since Dennis Crocker still hasn't progressed very far. I'm going to be doing the trick with him though, where we put him at left tackle for training results and then we move him back to tight end once the season starts. And you know what? This team might be a lot better than I thought it was going to be. We have Brian Slade up to a 94 overall and an 89 overall roster. When it comes to our quarterback room, that's where we're going to have to make the tough decision on who we should be starting. And I'm extremely curious to see what happens whenever we move Dennis Crocker over to tight end, because he's up to like an 80 overall left tackle after 1 year of progression, which gets him to an 86 at the tight end position, filling up basically all his skill caps. I was hoping some of his other blocks would get a little bit higher. His route running could still go up, but he has 92 speed just like Brendan Clark, so we have some good targets there. I can see how quick the fall off is going to be after this year though for our receiving room. We've got to find some better players. And then I'm really hoping Latui has taken a step forward with his accuracies. It looks like he has, but they're not going to be as good as our other option. If George Fogg could have filled up that extra skill cap that he just unlocked, then it would have made sense to put him out there, but I think we're going to refrain from it. And the reason for that is we still have 3 seasons to progress the sophomore who's a higher overall. We can't keep on going back to the senior. It'll be very interesting to see how the future goes, because there's even the chance we could win it all this year. But I just don't see that happening, and there is a 5-star receiver we can target. BJ Cantwell is a physical receiver. He's going to have that 50-50 ability, 93 speed. There was also a 5-star quarterback from Washington that we're going to go after. And this is where it really stinks we had our offensive coordinator stolen away from us, because the top 8 prospects on our board that I'm going after are all on the offensive side of the ball, and instead of putting 80 hours a week into them, we can only put 70. At least I can be happy we have options though. We have to open up the season against Washington. And after we face them in week 0, which is not how I set up our schedule, we have a couple of bye weeks, we have to play an FCS school, and there's no one ranked on our schedule. It feels like it's going to be pretty simple for us to maintain our spot in the top 25. But we are also rolling with a new quarterback, and he is lucky to have some amazing targets. Just the fact that we get open versus man-to-man coverage is such a game changer. And as we approach the end of this third quarter, we're down by 2, but we're driving down the field again. I've been surprised at how much wear and tear damage we're already taking. We got a great close-up of a dog though. You can't be upset whenever that pops up. And that Husky might be a good boy, but he's going to be upset by the end of this game as we go to the corner of the end zone. I know I picked the quarterback that wasn't as accurate, but he seemed to be just fine right there. On 3rd and 7, they're trying to beat us deep, but we're going to get back to it with Coleman. And we were able to build this room of defensive backs without being able to recruit like any. It's actually kind of remarkable how solid this team is at the moment for being this early in the rebuild. And also for the restrictions that we're facing, I'm going to just send one up and see if we can make a play with Brian Slade. I thought it might be worth it to give our 94 receiver a chance like that. We're going to throw to him on 3rd down. And I think you can see why we have struggled in this one. They have a chance to go for the first. They don't get enough. But we could get them off the field on 4th down, and we're simply not able to. I think I'm just going to run commit, which was not the right decision. And here we go. We're starting to collapse against the Huskies. They had somebody open, but they decided to try and run. From what I have seen though, I almost think that last year's team was a little bit better. And I couldn't really tell you why. Though, hang on, if we have this deep ball working out, I know our quarterback has 95 throw power, I'm gonna change my mind instantly. College is burning everybody. With both him and Brian Slade as seniors, I don't think our receiving core will get any better than this. It'll really just depend on whether or not we can sign that 5-star that we're currently going after. And I thought we had that right there. I was prepared for the run underneath on 4th down if they decided to do so, but instead they threw it straight at us. And you know what type of timing I'm on right here. They decided they could run commit against Brian Slade and also press him. It took our offense a little bit, but at the end of the game, we figured things out. And that was always expected, getting our new quarterback some more reps. I gotta say, with how quick we've been able to just turn things around, it has thrown me off. But now I'm setting expectations so high to where we should not lose any game I sim. It looks like Vitelli Latui believes that as well. He had a great performance against Wyoming. And we didn't just beat the Cowboys, we annihilated them. Next up is Air Force, another team that's in the Mountain West currently. And the farther we get into the year, the more breakout performances Latui's having. His worst game was against Air Force, where we only scored 14 points on offense, but everything else has just been great. And on the recruiting side of things, I would say things were going great all up until this week. We had a lead on every single player, even the 5-stars, except BJ Cantwell has started to prefer Oregon a little bit more. And I can't blame him, because for most of these hard sells on these players, we just don't have high school grades in the things that they're very interested in. It's an improvement from what we had, but it's nothing perfect yet. We're just going to keep on simming. Utah State shouldn't beat us. And they didn't, but we only won by 9. If there was any hope to land BJ Cantwell, it would be this week. He's on a visit just like the 5-star quarterback is and the 4-star running back. And unfortunately, after seeing the Kibby Dome, BJ Cantwell said he has to play for the Ducks. We did get AJ Sapp, and there's still a chance that we get Tracy Tunyon, but we need receivers more than anything else. We got one to commit out of Washington, and then on the Oregon side of things, there's just a 1-star available. If you think a 5'6" receiver with 82 speed, even as a gym, is going to help us win a championship, you'd be mistaken. And that's why I'm starting to feel like this season might actually be our best opportunity. We've already maxed out the tactician stuff. Clearly, we're good enough to win in sim. I still can hop into 2 more games this year, probably against Colorado State and UNLV. And I wish there was somewhere else for me to spend my coach points, but somehow at this point, we have 0 wins against top 25 opponents, so we can't unlock the Scheme Guru tree. We haven't had 5 players get drafted either, but we could get tier 4 for every position. This just means our entire team's going to start the 4th quarter high. And if we can beat Boise State one more time, we would unlock the architect tree, but this just affects how fast players level up. That's what happens when you get this good so fast, though. You're going to see Tracy Tunyon is the first 5-star to actually commit to our school, number 5 player in the country. And he'd be great for us at quarterback. He even has field general and magician, but I'm just afraid he's going to have no receivers to throw to. We might end up having to turn into like an option running school or something, but we could always just win a championship this year. I actually kind of hope that we don't. I think it'd be fun to try and win without having any receivers we can recruit, but I'm also not going to hold back. All it's going to take is 2 losses in sim, and then we're not going to make it to the playoffs. I mean, we're just getting inside the top 10. And I'm actually really nervous to sim this game against Boise State, but I don't want to play him again. Sure enough, though, we're 8-0. We came out on top. I don't know why Roberts would want to transfer. He's out here playing for a program that keeps on getting better. And there it is. We've unlocked the architect tree. It's going to cost us 15 coach points to purchase it and then start to put stuff into players. And what I've decided to do is go down to tier 3 for wide receivers and tight ends, since those are the positions that need to progress the most. Our win against Boise State was a blowout, 42-10. And sure enough, Vitelli Latui had a great stat line. He is playing better than George Fogg ever would have, which is why I was hoping he'd be in the Heisman watch list, but he's not. We might be able to change that this week, though. We're about to play 6-2 Colorado State, and if there's any team that's second best in the Pac-12 right now, it's got to be them. So if we're able to drop like 50, that'd be a pretty big statement. It looks like we're at least on pace to start out the right way, as we've driven down the field on our first drive. But a little PI is going to get in the way of us getting a touchdown right there, and that's out of reach. Fortunately, though, they're throwing the flag. They're saying there was some pass interference, and this is going to make it so much easier for us to just get into the end zone. As the first half goes on, they're pressing some of our best receivers. That will never work. And we've already taken a 21-0 lead. I thought this was going to be one of those games that we were going to squeeze out like we did against Washington to begin this season. And that's because they're 6-2, but instead we're going for 5 touchdowns before halftime and we just fumbled it away. I am still going to try and force this into the end zone though. I want to see that 5 touchdown stat line. It's a perfect throw. And to think we had him on our roster this entire time. With Vitelli Latui out there, I can't say that they ever stood a chance. We were always going to beat them. And he's going to finish with 7 passing touchdowns. Just a remarkable performance all around. I think I said before the game we could drop 50. We were 1 point short, but he got credit for all the scores, so it's okay. It is still not enough to put him in the Heisman running though. And since there's so many big programs with only 1 loss, the committee's having a hard time putting us above them in the rankings, which I can understand. Eventually though, surely some of them will fall. And we're coming off of another win, beating Fresno State 23-6. We still have to sim against San Diego State before hopping into our game against UNLV. But somehow we have fallen down even farther in the polls off of a win. This team is getting zero respect at the moment, and I'm not going to stand for that. But I guess after losing by 24 points to San Diego State, I can see why. However, part of that is because George Fogg is out there on the field. I'm not sure what happened to Feteli Latui, but I'm going to need him to bounce back from injury as soon as possible alongside most of the rest of our team. How are this many players injured? We are also now ranked 22nd in the polls. I don't know how these 8-3 smaller schools can just jump over us, but those injuries and that one loss might have just ruined this entire year. It's a good thing I didn't give up on recruiting. We finished this class signing quite a few 3-stars. I even got the 1-star receiver, but I am not happy that we just lost that one to the Aztecs so badly. I really thought that that game was a safe one for us to simulate. I guess it's not. I didn't even take a look at the conference standings, but I can tell you this, we are not going to let this season be ruined by players that aren't out there on the field. We should still be in the Pac-12 championship no matter what, having a chance at the playoffs. And since this is a non-conference game, the only thing that losing this could ruin is our chance of actually getting into the playoffs even after winning our conference. We need our ranking to remain high, which it should go up if we're 11-1. I don't know why it's below 8-3 schools, but I'm pretty confident after this week it'll probably fix itself. And if we do get to the playoffs, most of our team will be healthy by then. There's our former quarterback now playing fullback for us, and I enjoy having Brendan Clark out there on the field. He might be able to get a huge touchdown here if we didn't get hit before that throw came off. They're probably going to return this back for a pick 6. And we actually got pretty lucky. They did nothing with that drive, but as we end the first half, they're closing in on points. So after one half of football, we're only up by 1. I was so worried injuries were going to be the end of the season for us, but we have a tight end that's super fast, 92 speed to get him in. And Crocker is the exact build you want at that position. It created mismatches throughout the entire game, which has gotten us an 18-point lead with 4.5 minutes left, and I thought for sure they were about to go for it, but they have punted it back to us, which almost feels like a forfeit. Slade is going to take this return to the 40, and we were able to waste enough time to where they never stood a chance at pulling off a comeback. With that result, it's time for our next important game. We're going to have a chance to get revenge, but our conference was just embarrassingly bad. They're 5-7 making our conference championship. I'm starting to see why we don't get much respect in the polls. We have been ranked above North Texas, which is good, and all we have to do is hope that that stays put because we would get one of the top 5 automatic bids. That could be a little bit easier said than done though. I'm not sure if our quarterback's going to be back from injury yet or not, and it turns out that he is. That's at least some good news for us. On 3rd and 17, we're going to pick it up to Mills, but he's not fully healthy. You can see the wear and tear damage is already hitting him here in the first quarter, and we'll see how that affects Feteli Latui. We're going to hit this drag route, get into the end zone, and continue to dominate teams in Pac-12 play like we should have all year. There is nothing about San Diego State that makes them a great team. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to go over the top of their defense for this, and our receivers are simply just way better. As we approach halftime, there's no question we're winning this game, and it just blows my mind that the sim engine would actually let us lose this year. I mean, this one's not even a contest. We're about to be up 35-0, and it's about time Brendan Clark gets a little bit more action. They still haven't been able to even cross midfield yet. I was not kidding about wanting to prove we're that much better, and we got exactly what we were looking for. We held them to 0 points. We shut them out. We proved that we deserve to have a decent seed in the playoffs, and we also showed that in the future, Feteli Latui with a fully healthy season is a Heisman contender. I know he had a few more turnovers than George Fogg did last year, but look what George Fogg did with the couple of games he had to play in. And then Bryce Cheeseman was not our main running back this season. He averaged more yards per carry than Edward Gilliam, but he didn't get that many. I am happy to say we had 2,000-yard receivers, though. Both Brian Slade and Denzel College deserved a year like this. And after seeing a smoker won the Heisman Trophy, we're about to find out who we're playing in the playoffs. We have a bye. I want to say this is great news, but Oregon is on our side of the bracket, and I already knew that they were going to beat TCU. Just go ahead, let's get this over with. We're still going to be missing 2 of our best defensive backs and 2 of our best linemen, but the linemen could be back if we somehow made it to the championship. And this is a real opportunity to prove that this team is better than the one we had last year. The programs all left in the playoffs are going to be pretty tough, but I like the receiving core we have to use. And I still believe that this might be the best roster I'm able to build throughout this 10-year rebuild, so if we're going to win a championship, it probably needs to come now. I locked in last season playing most of our game against the Ducks. Normally, I don't do that. I sim a pretty good portion of have it, but I can tell that we're going to need it. I had someone open and I threw to the receiver that was getting locked down. So maybe we would just be better off if I was not the one playing, because it's about to be 14-0. They have come out extremely aggressive, pressing on basically every play, and I'm able to learn from that. Crocker is our deep threat. He's the fastest tight end in the country. No one expects him to beat coverages deep. And I know we got off to a horrible start, but if our defense can hold it down for us, we still have a chance against the Ducks. Huge run right here. The problem is we keep getting on these 3rd and 10s. I'm trying to thread it up the seam, which ended up working. And by the time we reached halftime, we'd put up 14 points, but we've also given up 21. It's been a stressful matchup for us, that is for sure, but we keep on beating their zones, finding the space in between them. And I've only made a couple of bad reads. I already have 2 interceptions, but it's okay. It has not ruined this game for us at all. We're about to make things 21-all with no one else than the favorite, Brendan Clark. And then we immediately forced an interception, which has put us in the red zone, but we needed this 4th and 2. I think after throwing for it, we can go back to the run, see if we had the speed to outrun them. And that's where Edward Gilliam is a little bit of a letdown. Now they're going with man-to-man coverage, and we can't get around that. If some of our like 85, 90 overall receivers, though, are getting clamped up, imagine what would happen whenever we don't have that a few years from now. And they're like 70 overalls. That's why I think we have to win it now. For the regions we can recruit in, I have yet to see a recruiting class that was as talented as that one we had in season number 2. And the longer this game has gone on for, we have been consistently getting stops while also scoring on like every drive, which has really helped us pull away. Right here, we're even making the catch with Crocker. So the Ducks can't get us off the field, and Oregon has got to make a stand at some point if they still want a chance. It might be a little bit too late for that, though. We'll see what happens on this 3rd and 17. I was always planning on just settling for a field goal, and can you believe it? We have picked up another miraculous play. I think we're going to just take this in. This is exactly why I like having a quarterback with the 92 speed. And at the end of the day, we did enough offensively to beat the Ducks. This is far from the job being finished, though. We still have to win 2 more games if we're going to win a championship this season. And we're going to have to face none other than undefeated number 1 SMU. I think if anything, what I've learned from this rebuild is if you have a lot of coaches that are maxed out like this, it's super easy to be good. Because the second that switch happened, we went from being awful to then going 6-8 and then being 12-2, 13-1. Just seeing SMU as our next opponent makes me really feel like we're about to make it to the championship. But you never know what'll happen. They average 38 points per game and our overalls are equal. We are currently trying to make an underdog run happen. That's what this has been. But I have never seen this team as the underdog. I have believed in them since the start of the year. And I'm not surprised we scored the first touchdown in this game. We're going for the second touchdown as well. Mills is able to take this drag to the crib. And SMU better be careful to not let us run away with it too quick. They definitely handled it right for sure, though. As you can see, we're only up by 1 right now. They have forced a fumble on us as well. And there's a decent chance they return this all the way back for a touchdown, so we're going to be going down with 4 minutes left in the second half. Sometimes it is not going to pay off to have unlimited confidence in your team. Once again, hit while we're throwing. And we will see if we're able to end this first half any better than we did in the last few minutes. We're juking to get the first down, but there's only about 39 seconds left. I was really hoping for cover 2. I had a cover 2 beater right there, and with this guy chasing us, we're going to have to get out of bounds. Maybe it's best if we just set our sights on getting a field goal before the end of the quarter. And this is not the time to start having inaccurate throws. I need to see some big time passes like this one right here that is knocked out into an interception. I swear, if they return this, I would lose my mind. Okay, as you can see, things are not going exactly how we pictured that they would, but we're going to make a big time throw to Mills. And that's what we needed here in the third quarter. We're also going to be able to run for a few, which sets up a third and manageable halfback angle route. Normally fools the CPU. And I might be looking in Brendan Clark's direction on this next play, or I'm going to be trying to throw over that zone for a touchdown. Just like that, we're back up by a point. But they responded back, and I've decided to go for it on 4th and 1, which was almost a huge mistake. By now, there's only 9 minutes left in this game. We still find ourselves losing. We're going to miss the catch. It goes through our hands for an interception. And there's been so many fluky things that have happened in this game. I'm starting to think that it's just not meant to be for us to win this one, make it to the championship. But we got the defensive stop that we were looking for, and I'm so scared of taking a safety. We're probably just going to end up punting it straight back to SMU, though Cheeseman is going to find the open space. And I can't believe how poorly some things have gone for us in this game. There was so much that we could have done differently, though Mills is going to break the tackle and go down at the 1. It is Brendan Clark time with our fullback play. And the 2-point conversion would put us up by 3 points, but they've guarded the hitch route I was going to take. Once again, they're going to respond as well. We could stop the 2-point conversion, but they have had an answer for everything that we have done so far, and I regret simming on defense as much as I have. It's put us in a pretty tough position. I was not going to let them do whatever they did to us recently. We shouldn't catch that. And there is only one play that I trust in this situation. It's helped us out multiple times. It's helped us clutch up, but that was definitely a very close call. And if this is cover 2, we should have completed that. I feel like this is EA just saying that we don't deserve to win a championship yet. I'm still going to try and make it happen, but I'm afraid if I run this halfback angle route play again, they're going to have to adjust at some point. The computer is supposed to. And even with tight end attack, I have seen some stuff that I really like. Like right here, we should have them beat deep, but we just can't catch a break right now. And over the middle, finally, we're going to find Brian Slade. It has been a minute. This is one where I think we manage the clock. We take it down to the final seconds and try to score a touchdown, but that has its own risks involved. And if we have the tutty, you might need to take it. Luckily, with all 3 of our timeouts still left, the only thing that could really hurt us now is something like a holding penalty. And we have done it. We have found our way into the end zone. Sure enough, look at what I'm running for the 2-point conversion play. It's been my favorite one throughout this entire game, and I really want them to return this kickoff so it wastes some time off of the clock. I have learned from previous experiences that we were going to back up all our corners here. It worked. And since they couldn't get into field goal range there, I feel pretty confident in the fact that we're going to be able to win this one, especially since that's it. It was a battle, but we have made it to the championship, and I made way too many mistakes that could have cost us. To be honest, it should have been a blowout. We've gotten Tennessee, the number 2 team in the country, in the championship. And even though we have had the hardest possible path whenever you look at team rankings, we've made it this far. We might as well win this too. They do have a quarterback that has thrown for almost 5,000 yards this season, though. They average more points per game. They're a higher overall. But yet, none of that worries me because I brought Idaho back up to the FBS level for a reason. That reason was to get this school a national championship, and they've already scored a touchdown, but it's okay because we're looking to respond. Going into this game, we knew that their offense was going to be extremely good, that we'd have to score a lot. And I'm hoping that we can get a man-to-man coverage look because I think Brendan Clark's going to get open. We have 2 92 speed tight ends on this team. I mean, we've got to be able to make plays like that one. But with some of our other receivers selling, we're going to find ourselves falling behind 14-7 and then probably 21-7 unless we're able to get them off of the field, holding them to just 3. They might even shank this kick. I've seen the computer do it before, but they didn't. I've been trying to be locked in ever since, and that is a perfect play. Without Crocker at tight end, this team would not be where it's at. And it'll be very interesting to see what they draw up on a 3rd and 8. We just haven't gotten in the pressure I was hoping that we would right here, but we're going to get the interception anyway. This could be a perfect tutorial on how to close out the first half of a championship. Or we could still mess things up. I mean, they're going with a lot of man-to-man coverage plus having a spy out there, which is the perfect way to try and counter our offense, but we're still going to be able to find Brian Slade underneath. I think we can for sure end this first half with a touchdown. And you know who I'm going to be staring down as he gets open and finds his way to the 1. All they had to do was not tackle us there, and they would have had a much better chance of getting some points. But it's all good. We let Brendan Clark go to work, and he is literally dancing on that kid's grave. He didn't get up or anything. He just accepted that he gave up that touchdown. We are going to have the ball in the 3rd quarter after giving up a field goal. And they're playing extremely aggressive. They're pressing our best receivers, which did not seem like a great idea. This works out perfectly for us, though. It's going to be a great start to the second half. At least I thought it was going to be. That was probably too tight of a window to try and put the ball through. But it's all good. I think I have the perfect play call for this situation, which works. By the time we get inside the final 5 minutes, we still have ourselves a 5-point lead over Tennessee. It's not by as much as it was, but I will say a lead is a lead, and I will definitely take it. We're trying to run out the rest of the clock, and we're going to get one step closer to winning it all if we can get this 3rd and 1, which we did. They are coming up so aggressively now, knowing they have to stop the run, and this is where it's almost perfect to try and pass the ball because they just won't be expecting it, but we might get enough. Here we go. This would pretty much do it. You know that I'm going with that fullback dive. And there it is. It is marked as a 1st and 10. It's over. We're going to win the national championship with Idaho. We have done it. And that was not supposed to happen that fast. I thought there were still a few more years left in the rebuild. I capped myself out at 10 seasons, and I was able to do it in 6. But I guess that's what happens whenever you've done as many rebuilds as I've done. If you want to see more of them, there's going to be a playlist where you can check them out. And if you made it this far, please drop a like.